Hey, welcome to Discipleship's Journey, Pastor's Journey. My hope is to be able to share a bit of my journey of making a discipleship culture, of seeing generational disciples, and trying to share what I'm learning along the way, the ups, the downs, and where things are at. So September 7th today, it's a Saturday as I do this. I'm literally waiting for some pizza that I ordered from my family, but thought I'd give a bit of an update of kind of where things are at least since the last time that I can remember. I guess one of the things that I started was this fall, I want to be able to start a men's group. And so ultimately my first level is to get 10 groups going. There's a bigger dream than that, but that's the first level, 10 groups going. And so our Thursday one has started back up. I met with the leader for our Tuesday one, who is that group also took a break, so they're going to be getting going, and if they aren't already, and they're quite small, but we got a couple of people who are interested to be able to bump that up a couple of people. Hope is get about 4 in that one, 4 to 5, and it grew small, and then it will get going again this fall, and that's one of the things I think I've realized is there's ebbs and flows, and we just got to go with it, and there's people going to come and people gonna go. But I got 2 guys who have said yes. I got 10 that I invited, or a little more than 10. I think a little more, but some of them I knew there was definitely probably going to be a no. I've had 3 guys get back to me. 2 of them have said, hey, I'm in. So it means I got a group to go, which is my hope. My goal would be to see 4. And I actually think I do have 4 because I know there's another gentleman that I talked to a few months ago who's a big supporter of movement in this direction, said, hey, if you get some guys, I want to be part of that group. So assuming the timing works, and we're going to meet twice a month on Saturday, 7:30 to 8:30. So I'll try to keep it in that hour and then be able to study. We're going to use the book of Mark, Discovery Bible Study, as we walk through, and just kind of I'm learning more as I do that. So we'll get that going. And that one I will start sooner than later of passing off leadership. I think that's one of the things that I messed up on with the other groups, and we learn as we go, and I think that's really, really crucial. Cool story out of this week's study is overall in the church we're doing a teaching series on hearing God, and part of that is I realize people don't actually know what that means or what that looks like in their daily life. And if we're going to create this culture and this movement, dependence upon Christ, surrendering to Christ, it's all really important in the midst of that. But part of that's hearing God in the midst of our journey. And there's a massive range of ideas around that, some screwed up, some not, some in good line. But a lot of people just don't think through enough. And part of the discipling, I realize, is as we disciple and create this culture, we have to help people hear the voice of God. Because I've recognized, man, if someone experiences the love of God, has an experience with Christ, way better than me preaching from up front or one-on-ones. And so how do we help move people into that, into growing into the things of God? And so we got a 4-week series, and we've tied it in with a prayer week as well this month that we have. We do a 4-week this year. We've done 4 1-week prayer weeks as we try to grow in that rhythm of prayer. And so at the part of that week, I've had a Hearing God seminar that we'll do at the end of the week, and there's some other prayer gatherings. I'll speak more to that later. But this lady was sharing with me, said, I grew up in a Christian culture that basically like gets you saved and that's it. There was no like God talks to you, God cares about what's going on in the midst of your life, and that discipleship process. Nobody walked with her to show her how to follow Jesus and the ways of Jesus. And it struck me because that's how most of us are running, right? Like even I've always fought over my years of like, hey, there's more to Sunday, and trying to move people in, and I think I've gotten better over the years in doing that. Here I started right from the start of doing that and trying to create a larger vision for leading people in the midst of that. And I think I'm learning from my past and those things that I did, my frustration of just where the church is at in North America. Like there is more than Sunday morning. And one of the things that she realized is whatever was said in sorry, the camera's shaking there, in Sunday was it just really struck her. And there's 2 things that struck her. One was recognizing when she grew up what she was taught, and part of what I did is just walk through the scriptures of how God talked to his people and the different categories of that, and then looked at John chapter 10, where Jesus says, my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. And that's a passage that has just always rocked my world. I've struggled with it. Am I hearing God's voice? The whole part of obeying that comes in after that, that's just massive. And so for her, there was this like realization that God speaks to me. God cares what's going on in my life and the choices I make and the things I do. And she's growing. There's a couple of really neat things happening in the midst of her journey. It's not an easy journey by any means. The second thing that stood out for her was, and this is, I love how God works, is her mind went to this book that's been on her shelf for she said years, and it talks about walking with God and hearing God and listening for his voice in the midst of just kind of the every day rhythms of life. And of course, that opened up in our study this conversation about hearing God, and it wove a little bit into our text as well. We're following a series on that group of scripture readings that kind of go from creation to Christ. And so we were in the book of Exodus, and one of the themes that has come up a number of times is God's in control. I need to obey him, do what he says. And of course, that opened up and trust him is the other big one. Those three are just, at least early on, those keep coming up. And so we talk about that. And the one person this person that I've been talking about shared how they, there's this hunger, I guess, now to be able to discover what God has for their life. And part of that's hearing him. And so they're learning how to do that and how to apply the scriptures into the midst of their life. And so it's exciting to see. It's not fast in any means. And we'll see where it goes. But those are some things that are coming. We got my prayer week is a big one that's coming up. So I got lots of work going into that and trying to mobilize, right? If we're going to create this discipleship culture, we got to create a prayer culture and actually do it and not just like talk about it. And so trying to develop it in my own life, develop it in the church life. And one of the things we've been working on is with the board. And so I got a number of board members where they literally started to talk about maybe we should start planning the prayer week and it's not all on the pastor. If we're going to get serious about this. It was this wonderful conversation. And my heart was just full of joy as I listened to this, because they are talking about, it's not all on one person. And I've been talking with them around, like, we got to do this together. We got to lead together. And they're talking about how do they get involved and what's it mean to lead and be for us, we call it a ministry council. That's our governing board. And so we're wrestling through now the structures of how do we relate? Do we need an executive team and of leaders? And then we have our core leadership team. And I don't know where all that's going to go. Those are just conversations that we're having. But I'm excited to hear that they're wrestling with what's it mean to be a leader in God's church. And in the midst of that, we've been praying this extra once a month. But this real, we gotta, we need to do this right. And we need to get on our hands and knees with a real hunger for the things of God. And that's just my prayer. Oh, another cool thing that happened out of this Hearing God series that we're in. We also have a Monday night group that's been working through some material that speaks about identity and who they are. And they've been doing that. And I think they've gone through the material twice. They've been bringing people in, some really neat stuff happening in the midst of that group. And the leader who I bumped into actually at Best Buy. It's funny how ministry works, right? It's these unexpected moments. So we're at Best Buy, and she's like, I got to tell you about this. And you've been speaking about hearing God, and we've been having that conversation in life for the church. She said, well, in our group, before we started talking about it, we just started having questions around hearing God and what's that look like, and how does God speak? And then I went and talked about it, and so it's furthering conversations in the midst. And so they're actually going to use the material that I'm speaking about on Sunday to be able to facilitate the conversation. And so I've given them resources, and at the end of my sermons, on my sermon notes, actually, I'm including some small group material because I'm trying to get people to meet. And so they're going to be in their small groups, be able to use this little study. And if someone's interested, I don't mind sharing that down the road. But it's still in development, right? I'm figuring out what works. I'm still trying to get people to use it. And so we have a paper copy and we have a digital copy. It's funny because this lady, I was like, oh, you can download a PDF. She's like, I don't know what a PDF is. I had no idea what you're talking about. I was like, would a paper copy work? She's like, yeah, it works. I was like, okay, here's where you can go and get it. And I think it's really important just to have both of those options in the midst. Our area, at least in geographically, is a northern part of our province, and it's got a little bit of different pace than the south, and that's one of the things I've been learning over the past year and a half. It's really intriguing to see and hard to explain at times, but there is this difference in here. And so where in the south I probably would have had more people using the digital than I am here, and I just think it's a need for both. Hey, what's working in that area in your journey? What have you seen, kind of that paper versus digital, and how do you engage in people? I'd love to hear about what works in your space. And I think it does depend on who we are. Some places, it's not uncommon to be driving down roads and have the phone signals drop because we just don't have coverage in that area, right? So we are in the city here, it's fine, but even just outside, not that far, that happens. I was visiting somebody. They would have been, I don't know, 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes from my house, but not too far outside the city. And I lost the signal all the time as I went there. Even going down the road, they live down this like dead end road. It's hilly, it's full of bush, and thankfully I downloaded the map already to my phone, and then I forgot the number that they were at, so it took me a little bit to figure that out. I was on the right road, but no signal. The other cool thing is I did get to meet with I Am Second and E3 partners, and we are definitely running a discipleship weekend Saturday. And my hope is to get 5 churches. I think I actually have those. I'll know next week. And then I'm going to open it up to more and say, hey, look, we got people comment. If each of them bring 5, that'll be great. We'll provide lunch. We almost got the agenda done. I'll share that hopefully next time what we're covering. I'm learning here, but I'm just trying to unite the churches together, because it's not just about our church. It's about how do we bring all the churches working together. And, for us, we got 5 of the same within a short period. So I'm kind of starting with them. And then we'll see where all those partnerships go. Obviously, this takes time, but I do get excited as I start to think about what's possible as we work together in the midst of that. I've also been in the midst of my journey, helping with, we have an organization called Hope Awaits, which gets men off the street, gives them a bed, helps them get going and find work, all those kinds of things, get some stability going in. So I've been asked if I'd help with mentoring, and so I had another meeting this week around mentoring for them, and there's some changes happening, so some of that's on hold, and I gotta wait till they get some structural pieces in place. Though may have 2 people who need mentoring, and that is individuals who are ready to they're about ready to leave, so they want to start that process of introducing me to them beforehand, which I think is great, so that when they leave, then I will be the contact afterwards to mentor them through. And so we're just thinking through that system, right? When they come in, it's discipleship, and what's that look like? And then I think one of my roles, I suspect, is going to be for that organization will be actually to training the mentors. And we're not there yet. I'm literally the only one, but we'll start to get more of that coming in. I also was asked if I'm interested in being one of the part-time chaplains. So wrestling through that, there's a whole bunch of information. I don't even know how many hours it is, but I will hopefully find out this coming week as I send a note off to the police chief and say, hey, let's talk around this and get some information. Still praying through if it's something I should bring on. I definitely struggled this week in my scheduling. I took on 2 clients for my business as well, which is great. God's provided some, will hopefully provide some income through that. Feeling a little rusty as I met with them, but it just busied the week and filled it up. And so now I'm trying to figure out how do I how do I schedule all of this? And just had to be home too for family, because there was some things and I just needed to be there. And so that I wrestle with that, because I have all these things up here I want to be able to get done and get working on, but needed to be home. And so there was, a situation. It was just, I recognized I needed to be home. And so, last night, for example, just sat at home and was there and stayed. And so that's, it was good. It was good to do that. And, but at the same time, it's also I think it's giving myself permission. This is okay. And also, as I realized, this is priority, right? So I have to care for my family and I have to disciple my family. And there's, as we move in this, there's a transitional season we're in right now. I need to be mindful that I don't forget them in the midst of this journey. I'm called to make disciples of other people, but I can't forget my family in this. And if that's, I can't lose that. And so just being reminded in the last 2 days of the need for that. Hey, let's make disciples together. I'd love to hear your story and where you're at. I'm still figuring this out, so hopefully that some of that was helpful. That's just a bit of my journey. And tomorrow's Sunday, so I'm excited to gather with God's people. At least for me, when I'm recording this, it'll be Sunday. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but we will see you again. Let's go make disciples. Let's share resources down below and have some conversation. Till next time.